So guys, the first thing you're going to want to do when you're working with oil pastels is have a paper towel handy, and you're going to want to clean off any junk or gunk that's on the end of your oil pastel. Make sure that it doesn't have another color on it. So here I've cleaned off my white. Not only am I going to be talking to you about different oil pastel techniques, but we're going to talk a little bit about color theory. I'm going to be talking to you about tints, tones, and shades. The first oil pastel technique that I think you'll really love, and it'll come in handy for your project that you're about to do, is just blending. We've talked a little bit about blending with colored pencils and regular pencils, and oil pastel is pretty similar. You're just wanting to work between two areas and kind of smooth them out. So number one says create a tint, and I've kind of broken down the combinations for you. So a tint is any color plus white. So a tint is a color that's been lightened with white, basically. So I can pick any color I want. I think I'll go with orange. I'm checking it to make sure it's clean, and it is. And I'm just going to start with my color on one side, and I'm just going to fill it in, kind of like you're coloring in a coloring book, let's say. I'm going to go about halfway. And then I'm going to start my white on the other end. And I am going to just go ahead and cross right into that orange, back and forth, up and down. At this point, I'm going to kind of go side to side to see if I can move that orange into the other half. And I'm just working back and forth between the orange and the white, and I might at this point clean my white off just a little bit. And then maybe come in on this side again and just kind of smooth that out. Go back this direction. So here you can see I've created a tint of orange, a lighter level of orange by adding white, and you can kind of see the value change from dark to light across. The next one we want to work on is how to create a tone with blending. So a tone is color plus gray. So here I'll find my gray. The gray is looking good. It's in really good condition. Maybe for this one I'll go with green. So I'm just going to start with my color on one side, just like I did with my orange. And you know, even though this is just practice, I would practice staying inside the lines, because when we start your project, that's going to be important. And oil pastels are kind of thick, and so it's sometimes hard to stay in the lines. So this is a really good time to practice that skill. And now I'll start gray on this side. And I'm going to cross back and forth between the gray and the green. Maybe clean off my lightest color, which is gray in this instance. Get that green off of there, and then maybe go back through it. So you can see what the gray does to the green. It just kind of dims it down. So this is bright green, this is gray, and when you mix the two, it creates a tone, which is just a dimmed down version of the green. Now we're going to create a shade. A shade is color plus black. So I think for this one, I will go with red. I'm going to start with red on this side. And then I'm going to grab my black. Start on this side. Now black is so dark, so I think what I'm going to do is use my red, use my lighter color to mix the two and to create that transition. I'm definitely going to want to dab this off a little bit. It's getting kind of dirty, and then maybe go this way with it. Just try to work those two together. Clean it off again. Maybe one last time over the top to smooth things out. So as you can see, black is it's very strong, and a little bit goes a long way. It kind of takes over, so you have to be careful when you're using black. But as you can see, I've got this spot where the red has mixed with black to create a shade of red. The next idea we're going to talk about is something called scumbling. It's a really interesting technique that a lot of artists use, and basically it's small, controlled, little jagged marks that you use to fill in areas with color. So for this I might start with, let's say I want to do kind of a blue color scheme. I'm going to start with my lightest one, and I am just going to make zigzag, jagged marks and now I could go through with a darker color and start to fill in. Sort of pick up some of those little white spaces and fill them in with a darker color. I could go in with my white on this side and start to fill in some of the white spaces, and the white's going to just kind of help nudge things together and blend things together. This would be a great technique to use if you were trying to get some texture. For some of your projects you might want to have kind of a rough bumpy texture. That would work really well for that. So that's scumbling. Stippling is the use of dots. There's a specific type of art called pointillism that we're going to talk a little bit about. Stippling it kind of goes hand in hand with that. It's the same idea. You're using dots to fill in spaces with color. So maybe with this, I might do, let's see, red and blue. This red would be better. So I'm just going to start making little dots on one side. And maybe make some blue on this side. And you're going to put them pretty close together. The closer together I put the dots, the darker things appear. So I'm going to keep making dots until the white spaces really start to fill in. And as you can see, this appears darker and then it gradually gets a little bit lighter. If I were to make blue dots and kind of run them into the red section, the idea is red and blue, if you mixed those two paint colors together, it would make purple. And so we can put red dots and blue dots next to each other, and they would actually do something called optic blending, which means that our eyes kind of mix those two colors together. So we're not physically mixing them together, the mixing happens through seeing them together side by side. Let's see, if I added yellow into this red area, the idea would be that things would start to look a little orange, because red and yellow make orange. I could put black dots in between blue, and that would dim it down even more. So you can see that there's just a nice variety of things that you can do with stippling. If I wanted this to be light, I could go in with my white oil pastel and add some stippling dots, and that would continue to blend those and kind of create that highlight. So it's kind of like scumbling, where you've got some texture, but it does have a really special look to it. It's a lot of fun. That's stippling. The next thing I want to show you is called striping. Striping is just what it sounds like. You're using stripes of color to fill in an area. So let's say I wanted to fill in this cylinder. I could go with that curve. Let's say add some red, maybe use some orange if I want to transition between my warm colors, maybe some yellow on this side. And as you can see, that just kind of gives this a nice curved look and kind of enhances the curve of the cylinder. And then I would just keep going back through and add little stripes, and that helps to blend these areas together and make a nice transition. On the top, I could do a couple different things. I could just fill it in, or I could, once again, kind of focus on line and line quality, and I could, let's see, I'm going to switch to pink so it looks like the top is lighter. I could make some lines and just kind of fill that in, maybe go in with yellow. if I really wanted to add a shadow, you know, it's already got kind of a dark side and a light side, but if I really wanted to accentuate the shadow, I could go in with some stripes of black. I could go in with my gray if I needed to. That would kind of dim down that side. So I'm making kind of dash marks or stripes. And that really helps give kind of a three-dimensional look. On this part of your worksheet, it says create your own mini composition here. For that, I'd want you to take a pencil or a Sharpie and just kind of break up this space somehow. You could draw a picture of something, like a person, place, or thing, or you could just make like a neat line design. And just start practicing some of those techniques that I just showed you. Maybe try stippling in one area, scumbling in another, do some smooth blending in another area, and then maybe try striping in another. Try to put it all together and see which ones you prefer, which ones are the most fun to use, because when you create your oil pastel project, you're going to have a choice as to what you want to use. So this is your chance to practice and have fun with it. When you are finished, the nice thing about the paper towel is you can take your paper and kind of tap off any little crumbles. Put your pastels back in the box neatly. And then take this paper towel over to the trash. And you've got all your junk kind of wrapped up here so it doesn't end up all over your chair or your table, and it makes for an easy cleanup. Thanks guys, enjoy!